Welcome to the Commissioner Evaluation Show. Not the Dynasty Evaluation Show, the Commissioner Evaluation Show, because we got some Commissioner stuff to talk about here today, about some leagues, C2C, some Dynasty, some all that kind of stuff. So let's get to it.
McGlynn is in. I repeat, McGlynn is in. Let the fun begin. This is the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with your host, John McGlynn.
Is that Herms?
He got them guests on the Rolodex, stopping by to talk about some Dynasty Superflex. Everybody, yo, Commish is in. It's time to sit down to listen to John McGlynn. Yo, who we trading, who we fading, who we getting off the squad. Knowledge never overrated, playing for number one. Hey, yo, McGlynn is in. It's time to let the fun begin. It's the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with John McGlynn.
I love that song. It never gets old. So Herms is doing an updated version for me. If you listen to the last show, he's going to make me a Dynasty Evaluation one for the new Dynasty Evaluation format. But this is the Commissioner Evaluation Show, and I'm here with the co-host with the mo-host, JT Orange. JT, what's new?
Hey man, just kicking it mid-season here. It seems crazy that we're already in week 10 of college football, week 9 NFL football. It's like we wait all off season. All of a sudden, it's like bam! It's like it flies once we get here. So yeah, trying to get by all these bye weeks. Man, it's a brutal week for bye weeks for me in the NFL and for all those people playing college football leagues. Man, there is a million teams on bye this week. I've already been looking at my teams and trying to figure out who I can play where because it's ugly out there this week.
It is ugly, and you know what else is ugly is one of my Dynasty one of my C2C teams is started out pretty hot, and I've been kind of getting beat up last couple weeks. It sucks when you play the high score all the time, and in redraft and Dynasty and C2C, it doesn't matter. But when you score like 265 points and you're like 30 points ahead of the next highest scorer, besides the guy that beat you by 60 points, it's like, what the shit, man? Like, that's ridiculous. So.
Oh, I know the feeling, man. I've got quite a few leagues, especially on the college side this year, where I am like one of the highest scorers and my record's terrible. Like I'm looking at our team, our league, you're 6-3, I'm 5-4. I've got 5 points less than you on the season, and you're 6-3 and 5-4. You're in third, and I'm in seventh, and we've got 5 points difference on the year. I'm the third highest scorer in the league, and sitting in seventh place. And I've had quite a few. I've 200 points more than the second place team, so it's brutal.
I saw. For a while there, I was like, yes, you were the lead. After week 1, you had like 400 points. I was like, this is crap. This guy, he's going to smoke the entire league. You know, this is crazy. And then I kind of caught up. I passed you up. I'm holding my league by the slightest of all slightness right now over you, but it's you're definitely catching up fast. I had a couple weeks, a lot of buys this week. A
lot of bye weeks on the college side this week. A ton of teams on bye week. I didn't even see what the total amount was, but it was a lot.
Yeah, I went to set my lineup, which I do one of the things we talk about here is the when you get into these leagues, these dynasty leagues, is you have to set lineups on Monday for Saturday, like Sunday or Monday when it comes to the Fantrax setting your college lineups, because Mactober starts in October. That's MAC teams, or there's matchups going on in October. So you have to set your lineups Monday, just kind of get your stuff together. So I'm gonna share my screen here just to kind of show what happens.
Yeah, John, I just looked it up. I think it's 35 or 36 teams in college on bye this week. It's a bunch.
So here is my sleeper team. Let me fix this on StreamYard. So this is my team here. It is, you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I have 20 players on bye this week. So I'm fielding a team, but if you look at this is a cool setup for Fantrax, which it's new to Sleeper, but I'm not sure how long it's been on Fantrax for. but I got my starting lineup going on here. And then they give you these little yellow circles, which it's your explain what that is, JT, because I just know it as numbers, reserve player spots. What are the yellow dots for?
Yeah, so the yellow dots. So you got, if you're in a C2C league, it's 5:30. Games start in 30 minutes. You have the yellow dots it's basically you're putting in your subs in case someone's hurt. So if you have a player that is hurt, or sometimes these guys, they don't even pop up and say they're hurt and then they just don't play in the game, you can put in your subs so that if a guy does not play, it will sub him out automatically and put these players in. So this is something like, Sleeper has been working on and trying to do it this year. And there was, big hubbub about it, but they've been doing this on Fantrax for a long time now. It's super, super helpful on the college side, because sometimes, like on my league, in this same league, John, I've got 3 guys that are all injured that all say possibly will play this week. So then I have to go in and put subs in for those guys in case they end up not playing. And so the number is what order you want the subs in. So 1 is your first sub, 2 is your second sub. You can do up to 9 subs in Fantrax. Usually I always do at least 5 or 6 just in case.
Oh, I do all 21 or whatever it is every week. I got them all, it only shows 12 here, but actually 13. I assign all them. All
yeah,
them,
I usually do like 8 or 9, but yeah, if you could do them, I mean, it's not a bad idea because you just never know when a guy's going to be hurt. And because it's just for people that are new to the college side, they don't have an injury report like the NFL does, where everybody comes out every week and shows you who's hurt and who's out for sure and who's questionable. They just don't really do that in college. Like, so there's times where guys, they don't say anything about a guy not playing all week, and then all of a sudden, bam, game starts at 11 a.m. and they're like, oh yeah, so-and-so is not playing. Like, we just found out. You're like, what? Like, you don't have time to change your lineup. So that's why they kind of put those in there as a good chance so you can sub out some guys. So it's helped me in a bunch of spots. I've also missed a couple times this year where I didn't get my subs in, because you have to have the subs in before the first game of the week, which now we're deep enough in the season that games are on Tuesday. So Tuesday at 6 is the first game. So if you don't have your subs in by Tuesday at 6, then you cannot put subs in the rest of the week. And I've got burned a couple times by not getting my subs in time. And then guys didn't play and I didn't realize they weren't playing and I got zeros. So it's get those subs in if you can, for sure.
So we all started with the waiver wire and redraft. We started a redraft league, and a lot of times it's waiver priority, depending on how good you did, how many points you scored, how many wins you have, stuff like that. And then as you get into dynasty and you get kind of evolve into space, you get into fab. Free agent acquisition budget is what it's called. It's money. You get $100, $1,000, $10,000, whatever you want to assign. It's all relative to, I think it's more fun to have 1,000 instead of just 100, because you get more flexibility there instead of just spending $1 a week and being out after 10 weeks or, waiting, for, not being able to have any more money. $1,000. You could spend $432 on a really, really big priority and still spend $1 or $2 or $5 for a bunch of other weeks. And you could trade a lot of fab too, which some people don't do. I try to trade fab every absolute chance I get, either trade for it or trade it away for a pick, for a player, for anything. But in campus to Canton leagues, which I found out the absolute hard way, which I'm in 2 leagues. I picked up players like Jack Lausch, who played for Brother Rice High School with my son. He goes to Northwestern University, the quarterback now. I wanted him on my team, early on, just to see how this kid does. He's doing okay, but there's so much better players to play, long-term better assets that I want to pick up now. But I found something out the hard way, that you're only assigned a handful number of waiver priorities in your C2C leagues, which in this league there was 10. Another league I was in, I noticed it was 15. So a couple reasons for that. One is because JT, we talked about before, where we don't want to deplete the entire rookie. The people, there's a Debbie draft. There's a rookie incoming draft. There's players that slip through the crack kind of draft. If you give away too many waiver priorities or too many waivers, it's not fair to get people who save their draft picks or trade up for draft picks, and they won't be able to pick anybody. There's nobody left on the actual draft day for incoming or players left over on the waiver wire itself. That's one reason. That's probably the main reason. But it's another thing is they don't want the turnover in this. The guys going from team to team, or you want to keep a team that you have later on in the season. Drop the guys who are seniors who are probably not going to make it to the NFL and pick up some maybe freshmen for incoming freshmen this year, or freshmen about to be sophomores that maybe got an opportunity you had a hunch for. JT, what is the 10 waiver priorities? It seems, I guess I found that out that it's a lot. 10 is a lot. 15 is a lot. I was talking to Chris Battistill yesterday, and he said that he's got a league that only has 3. And it's the first 3 or 4 games you get one, the second 3 or 4 games you get one, and you get one towards the end of the season. So on top of only having 3, you can't use them whenever you want to. You have a transaction to do in a certain window of the season. So like a trimester kind of thing. How long did it take you to figure out? Like I don't know if you found out the hard way like I did, that you have assigned waiver transactions. What did you do to how did you find out? Did you read the rules like smart people do, or did you find out the hard way like dumb people like me did?
Well, the first year I played C2C, I was only in a couple leagues, so it was a little easier. So I knew the rules. Most people were new. It was a new league, so kind of went over all that stuff early on. My very first main C2C league, we do 5 transactions, so 5 a season. So what you really have to do is you have to figure out on those transactions, is this a guy I need? Do I have injuries? Is there players I need to pick up that I can play that are going to score me points? So usually that's typically what I'm using early in the season. I'm using waiver wires on those. And then as you get later in the year, if you haven't used all your transactions, a lot of times what you tend to do is you start picking up guys that you think are going to be higher supplemental draft picks the next season. And so you're picking them up so you can kind of save yourself from having to use a higher pick on those guys. So a good example I always use is by the end of my first season in this one C2C league I was in, I picked up Trey Harris, who at the time was on Louisiana Tech, and he was having a good year, but he was one of those guys that nobody really knew who he was. He was like a sophomore. He had a nice season, but he wasn't like, blowing up the space, but he was a guy people were talking about, like maybe this guy transfers to a bigger school next year. So I used one of my waiver wire picks late in the year to pick him up, even though I wasn't going to play him on my team that year because I was loaded at wide receiver. But then the next year he transferred to Ole Miss, and now he's looking like a first or second round NFL pick possibly, as he is having a monster year this year for Ole Miss. But I got him before he transferred to Ole Miss. So, those are sometimes what you end up doing is you go and get some of those guys you think might transfer, or a guy that's maybe not getting a ton of playing time right now, but you're like, oh, this guy's going to be a stud next year whenever these seniors or juniors, whoever in front of them, leave. So it's kind of a different strategy how the way you're looking at it. But yeah, most of my leagues are like 5, 10 or 15 in a couple leagues we're in this year is way more than I'm used to. And so I've been trying to look because I'm like, oh, do I need to pick up a guy? Do I not? I think in our league, I have like 6 waiver wires left in that league pick. So I'm like looking at it now. We're trying to decide, when do I use them? Do I need, because I'm in that point range where I need points still. Do I pick up some guys that maybe juniors or seniors that I'm only going to get them for the rest of this year, but they can help me win? Or do I use those on future players that I think could be good in the future, next year, and then almost use them as like an extra draft pick this year?
The best part about C2C, as I'm finding out, is that there's no such thing as like really tanking. You try to get the best players because there's no rookie draft. There's not really a rookie draft going into your dynasty leagues. So even if your team's awesome in your dynasty league and your team is awesome in your C2C league, all the awesome players go on your awesome dynasty league, and you just create this like super dynasty situation. It's you don't have to worry about tanking or trading picks or that. It's become like this layer of awesomeness that I didn't even know that C2C even had, that I'm so happy about now. It's probably my new. It's growing on me so fast to look into all these, do the research on these players in college. I'm watching a lot more college than I ever did before. I only used to watch Channel 5 and watch Notre Dame, and some of the big, when Alabama played LSU or stuff like that, going Alabama and Texas, something like that. Now I'm watching all these games I never even thought I would watch before. I'm watching, you like Memphis and a couple other teams like that. But I saw a Liberty game last week. I'm like, what the hell am I doing watching Liberty? Like, but I got players on Liberty.
They got some players, baby. You got some guys on their team. So yeah, it just depends. So like, that's the biggest thing too. There's a lot of different strategies when it comes to C2C, because obviously, like you said, tanking on the NFL side doesn't help you at all, because the draft for the NFL side is really nothing big at all, because all those guys are mostly drafted. So you have very rare circumstances where no one ends up on a team and then they end up being like a huge draft pick and you get them in the rookie draft. But what you have to do is you have to figure out the difference between, like, okay, getting NFL type of players on your team that maybe don't put up great stats in college because they're in like the SEC or the Big Ten, so they've got harder competition, so they're playing well and they're going to be, big, high NFL draft picks, but they don't put up crazy stats. And then mixing those in with the guys that play on the smaller teams that are not going to be NFL draft picks but score a ton of points on the college side. So it's like really trying to find that balance. And then looking for the future when you're coming up, it's like, hey, I've got a bunch of senior quarterbacks, whatever, making sure you have guys in different years so that you don't just bottom out where you don't have anybody playable. Because that can be a difficult thing too, is to make sure you can be loaded one year and then all your guys go to the NFL and then your college team is really bad on the other side. So it's definitely different strategies. You can definitely you have to juggle things a little bit more and look into the future a little bit and say, okay, do I want to take this senior that's going to score any points this year, or do I want to take a younger guy that I'm going to need in 2 or 3 years? And then again, you never know if those young guys are going to hit. That's the other thing in college. You'll see guys take all the freshmen, the stud incoming freshmen coming out of high school, and sometimes those guys hit and sometimes they completely whiff. And you're like, I took this draft pick on this guy and this guy is never playing, so it happens.
So you draft, let's say, generally speaking, when you get these kids coming out of high school going into college, and there's some kid that's 6'2", 240-pound running back that's in some small conference in the middle of nowhere, and he's just a man among boys in some small conference, I guess, whatever, small town America. He goes to LSU or Alabama or something like that, and he doesn't fit in. He's 5-star, he's huge. He goes there. He's never got hit by somebody like the Alabama caliber before, or an LSU caliber. And this kid just is an absolute wash the entire 4 years. He just kind of, at that point in time, he doesn't even transfer to a different school. He just kind of almost drops out of football kind of situation. How often does that kind of stuff happen, where there's some kid that's touted to be an absolute animal in the college level, just kind of, looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane kind of stuff?
Yeah, it happens. I mean, we always forget, man, these kids are young. Like, off the field issues happen. Guys get suspended. Guys get kicked off teams. I mean, I think one of the probably best examples of that is Eric Gilbert, who came out as the highest rated tight end ever coming out of high school. Went to LSU, then transferred to Georgia, then transferred to Nebraska, and then got arrested, got kicked off the team at one place, then transferred out of another place. He went to Nebraska, got arrested for breaking into a liquor store in the middle of the night, got kicked off the team there. He's a guy I owned in a ton of C2C leagues, and he just has never produced because he's never been able to stay on the field. He's never been able to stay with a program. But these things happen, man. When you're dealing with 17, 18, 19-year-old kids, sometimes these guys just never make it. And then you have other kids who are super highly touted recruits that end up at a big school, Alabama or Ohio State or something like that. And then every year there's huge recruits coming in. So sometimes those guys get buried and never hit. And then there's times those guys transfer and then they hit when they transfer. And there's times they transfer and you think they're eventually going to hit and they don't. They just, at that point, they've kind of missed their window. So these are things that year to year, you see the differences. You see some of these guys come in and they're super highly touted. They go super high in drafts. And then the next year, you don't see anything from them. I think a big example of that right now is Brandon Ennis from Ohio State, a guy that was super highly recruited, went to Ohio State, who's been loaded at wide receiver for years and years. He's not seeing the field this year, and he's a sophomore. I mean, he basically sat his whole freshman year, redshirted, and he's not seeing much this year. Well, he was a guy getting drafted really high in supplemental and C2C drafts last year, coming out as a freshman. And then these guys just not seeing the field. So he dropped significantly in startups this year. I got him on a few teams this year, and I got him easily 12 rounds later than I got him, 8 to 12 rounds later than you had to get him the year before. So things like that happen. Guys go way up, guys go way down. It's super fluid. And we were just talking about on another show, John. Keyshawn Boutte from the Patriots was a guy that was a Devy C2C darling. Everybody wanted him. He was picked super high. And then he kind of fell off at the end of his LSU career, had some off the field issues, had some issues where he got into it with coaches. And he ended up dropping down to the 6th round of an NFL in the NFL draft. And if you would have asked the year before, people would have thought he was going to be a 1st-round pick. They would have been trading the house for him. And then he ends up being drafted in the 6th round of the NFL draft. So, again, that's the big thing with the college side when you're doing C2C campus to Canton. It's a guessing game. These things, guys, some of these guys hit and then they fall off the next year. And then you have times where guys, just produce from the very beginning and they're going to be a stud and you get them and you go. It's definitely an exact science. That's for sure when it comes to that, because you're dealing with a bunch of young guys and you just don't know how they're going to fit in with the program they're at.
Yeah. One of my biggest swings and misses, which I really kind of sold the farm for, which I figured was a guy like Elijah Moore. I figured when he came in the NFL, and he panned out in the NFL. And anywhere I didn't have him, I saw him doing so well. I traded, 1st-round picks for 1st and 2nd-round picks, try and get this stud on my team. And after halfway through his freshman year, his rookie year in the NFL, he just kind of fell off the radar. He had a decent game this week, but it's just because people weren't prepared for Jameis Winston, throwing the ball all over the field like a wild man. But I'm sure those numbers will come down a little bit. But man, there are guys out there who I swing and miss on a lot, but man, it happens to everyone, I'm sure. But one of the situations I want to talk about this week is what happens if you're a commissioner of one of these leagues, which we're in a league right now that's having a bit of an issue where everybody was assigned 10 waiver claims. So I used all mine already. I'm SOL. And some people traded away some of their waiver claims to get higher draft picks, to do things like that. And one guy in the league who's also new like me, this is first year in C2C, an actual structured league anyway, not just kind of a practice league or whatever you want to call it. And this guy had 100, and he didn't know that everybody else didn't have 100 either. He just kind of okay, I'll take this guy, take that guy. So now he picked up all the good waiver claims. He's in 1st place now. He's got the highest points in the league. He's used 15 waiver claims, which is more than anybody else even has. And how do you rectify a situation like that? Because my suggestion was, hey, just stop him from making any more claims and give everybody else 10 more claims. Or he used 25 already instead of 15. So he used 25 of the 100. Everybody else only has 10 total. And a lot of people who are used to this format weren't checking his stuff, knew that they only had a couple to use, weren't using them yet, waiting for later in the season. So how do you rectify that situation? You can't take wins away from this guy. You can't take all the players away. You can't take his wins away. You can't there's nothing. It was a commissioner's fault for not double checking his work, I guess. And this guy got away with it. But now a guy like me, who cares if you put all those guys back on the waiver? I can't even get him anymore. And some guys traded a couple of their stuff away to get to get a higher picks or try and move up with they had a 109 in their soon to be rookie draft. Traded a guy and some of the waiver claims we had to move up to 102 or 103 were the only good prospects they're probably going to be at. How do you fix that situation? I don't know. It doesn't help me at all if they put everybody back on the waiver wire because I'm out of claims. What do you do?
Yeah, this one's a toughie. I haven't seen this happen before, so I there's a couple different ideas here, and we'll kind of spitball them. My idea was, hey, this guy's got all these claims. He's used X amount extra, make him drop all these guys that are past his 10 claims and give him back the players he had before, as the Commish could do that. So that's one option because it gets those players available. Now, the other option is the Commish say, hey, I screwed up. He's got these players. I'm going to let him keep them for the rest of this regular season. But anybody he picked up after his 10 get dropped at the end of the year because those guys get to go back to supplemental picks. If, obviously if they're not seniors or guys that go to the NFL would be available in the supplemental draft. That's an option. You could do an option where you just say I screwed up and that guy gets them and he gets to keep those players and then it goes that way. I almost on this one, I'd almost bring it to a league vote. That the problem is on something like this is you just assume most people are going to vote whatever helps them. So they're going to vote for like having this guy drop all these players and not have him. So since he's got the best team right now. So usually in this type of situation, people are going to vote for that. So I'm almost in favor of the Commish just making the decision, especially since he's the one that screwed it up. I don't know how you feel, John. To me, what makes it the most fair is to look at you. Obviously, going back and changing points and doing that from what's already happened, I think is like it's just that's a mess. That's a mess.
That's too much.
If you can just go from this point on, and now you've noticed it, do you take away if he's how many claims has he made? You said he's 25. He's 25. Got 15 claims over. Oh yeah, so like that's a tough one too because that's an extra 15 guys. Like, do you make him drop those 15 players and put the other players back on his roster?
So what does that do for a guy like me though, who already used all my waiver claims and I traded away my draft picks already? It's like shit.
And you're, that's someone who doesn't have any pickups that you're out of luck there. I've got a couple pickups left. So, but that's what I'm saying. So it's obviously, you're not going to vote for that because like that doesn't help me at all. So that's why it's almost like a commish is just going to have to make a decision because the guys that have waiver claims left are going to be like, yeah, make him drop all those players so I can go in and pick them up. And the guys are going to say, hey, I don't have claims left. I don't want to do that because then all the guys that have claims are going to be able to go get those guys, and I want those guys. This is a sticky situation at this point. Almost to make it the most fair to me, it's tough. I'm like, do you just let them keep those guys for the rest of the year, but say, hey, you've got to drop them after the season because that was 15 extra claims, or do you go? Here to make this fair, nothing's going to be totally fair, but you go, hey, that's my F up, but you get no pickups next year. Do you do something like that retroactively and say, okay, man, I'm not going to make you give all those guys back, but now you get no claims next season to try to make it fair since you got all these extra guys that nobody else had a shot to get. I don't know, John. What are your thoughts on this? Because this one, I don't have like a definitive, I would do this or I would do this in this scenario, which I think I usually do, at least how I would handle things as a commish. This one's a little outside of anything I've ever been involved with. So I'm trying to decide what makes the most sense. What is the most fair? I don't know. I'm
going to say this. Okay. I'm a big believer in karma. And I talked to you originally about this guy who was the commissioner of this league. And I really, as a person like me, who's very sensitive to the rest of the people in the league and the guy who puts everything to a vote. And this guy rules like it with an iron fist about everything. And when he makes a mistake like this, and he's in a situation where no matter what he does, he's not going to make everybody happy, kind of thing like that. He's going to have to. I mean, I don't know if he doesn't give a shit. He just uses all these leagues for whatever you want to call it anyway, content anyway, kind of stuff like that. If he doesn't even care, he's just going to do whatever he wants anyway, kind of thing. But it's not written in the rules. And he was a guy saying, well, read the rules. You should have read the rules. Read the rules. You should have read the rules. He was a stickler for everything that he did. And, this is my way or the highway kind of thing. You can leave if you want. Here's the door kind of shit like that. Now, how much grief do I give a guy like that? Or I just sit back and say, hey, or I'd say, hey, fuck you. I'm leaving this league. You fucked it up now or something. It's the guy who did this is already getting berated by 3 or 4 guys on the message board saying, you should have read the rules. You should have known better. And he's gotten to the point of like saying, I'm out. This league fucking blows. This has been a shit show since day one kind of thing. So I don't know what the answer is here. I do know that I don't think there's any right way to fix a situation like this. You can't tell the guy you can't have any claims next year. You can't give all the players back. You can't take his points away. You can't. This is new. I'm glad I was able to experience this, to be honest with you. This is one of those things where the best thing that could happen is you not be in charge and a whole bunch of shit goes wrong because like in the future, like to look out for this kind of stuff. If this was my league and I made a mistake like this, I don't know what I would do. I honestly don't. I would say I would stop him from having any more claims and give everybody else 25 claims instead of just 10. So add 15 claims to everybody else's roster and say, here you go. And sorry about like the picks next year. You're not going to how do you call it? The supplemental draft is not going to be as stacked. There's probably going to be completely depleted, but this is the only way to fix it. I mean, do you think giving everybody 25 picks and just stopping that guy is probably a decent answer, decent solution?
Yeah, I was reading back through the message board. What you kind of do, I don't. That might actually not be a terrible idea either. John is give everybody an extra 15 to make it equal, at least for this year, and then next year you say, okay, everybody's going to extra picks this year, go back down to 10 next year or whatever you want to make it. I think that's actually might be the least messy of the mix. Is go, yeah, just give everybody an extra 15 claims. I mean, it does hurt someone like me who's been really holding my claims just in case. Like, I've only used 4 claims in this league because a lot of times I will kind of wait to end of the year because of injuries or bye weeks or something when it gets close. Because like I will go in and like pick up a quarterback that's a senior that's I'm only going to get to use for like 4 or 5 games. But if that guy has a shot to help me win the college side, if I'm in the mix to win it, then I will make a move like that. If it's one of those things where I'm probably going to miss the playoffs, then I will use those claims on younger players that I would have been drafting next year in my supplemental draft. So like I said, a little bit different strategy depends on how my team is and going. Now, I do think it's a little bit of a mess to be like, oh, well, dude, you should have realized you only had 10 claims in a new league and only stopped at 10. I mean, I don't know about you, John, but I play in a ton of leagues. I don't know the rules off the top of my head of all these leagues. I really don't. And so if I had a bunch of waiver claims, like literally, and I will be honest with this, I go through my Fantrax page, and sometimes I'll flip to the bottom just to see if leagues even have waivers, because I'm in some leagues that are best ball that once the league starts, there is no pickups and waivers the rest of the year. Yeah. So there are some that are like, hey, that's who you got after the draft is who you got. So I even have to go back and look again and be like, oh, is that one of the leagues that doesn't have waivers, or is this a league that has waivers? So like sometimes I'll have to go look at that as well. So if I had 100 waiver claims in that league, I wouldn't have probably noticed that I should have only had 10.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So to me, yelling at the guy because he kept making claims, I just think that's ridiculous. I wouldn't have known. And again, all my leagues are different. I have leagues where it's 3. I have leagues where there's 5. I have leagues where it's 10. I have leagues where it's unlimited. You can pick up and drop as many guys as you want the whole season. And I have other leagues where there's a max total transaction. So to just be like, oh, well, you should have looked and done it. Like, I'm like, I think that's kind of like, I just don't think you can put it on the guy. Like, oh, he should have known that he only had 10 claims, especially in a brand new startup league.
I'm used to making like 175 transactions a year, kind of shit like that. You know, I am dropping dudes, trading guys, you know, I am that guy. I probably make about 50 trades a year in like most of my leagues. Like if you're not producing, you're gone. If I can get something else, you're gone. If I have a bad feeling, you're gone. I'll pick up this guy, drop other guys, I'll try and drop guys like Sunday morning and then try and pick them up again on Wednesday in the waiver wire kind of thing. I'm one of an active person. So this kind of handcuffing on waivers is completely new to me, especially the only time I ever did anything besides fantasy football and like redraft dynasty was hockey. And that is like a shit show. Like that is a game of waiver wire. Like you are dropping guys and picking dudes up, like going out of style. The first one we had 0 limitations in a fantasy hockey league. You can imagine the benches were empty and full every day. There was 1,000 transactions a day. Guys just trying to fill a lineup, people that didn't even play sometimes. Like it was absolutely nuts. So now having 7 transactions a week for fantasy hockey, which ends up being, you know, when you total that up for all the weeks of fantasy hockey times 7 or 10 transactions a week, and to only get 10 a year for fantasy for C2C football, man, it is completely a different world for me. I don't have that spider mentality where I sit back and be patient and play, you know, that I don't have it. It's not in my blood. Like, so I'm just kind of it's completely new to me, but yeah, I don't know.
Well, John, let's bring this up real quick since we are talking about being Commish and what you do in these circumstances. It looks like I just went back. It looks like the guy in first place who's mad now because everybody was kind of ripping him about not reading the Bible. It looks like he's saying he quit the league. So what are we?
Yes.
What are we gonna do with his team? And his team's in first place now. How do you handle setting the lineup and doing all that? And what do you do with all those waiver claims? Oh man, this thing is a mess. These are situations where it's like, it ain't easy being in Commish a lot of the times. This one is a special one I've seen. So, what would you do there, John? I mean,
can I leave too because I don't like the commissioner and I don't like my team and I'm not a waiver shit like that.
It's like we're all just bailing on this league. Well, and I feel bad too because it's like you look at your team and my team, and again, these were brand new startups. So, I mean, we spent all summer drafting these teams. And it was not when you're doing an NFL in a college size in a startup, that first year, that draft is a month long. Easily. I mean, it's taken a long time. And John, like I said, you're in third right now. I'm in seventh. You're number 2 in points. You're only 18 points behind the first place guy, and I'm only 5 points behind you. So technically, me and you are the next 2 best teams in this league if you go over at points.
If that guy didn't spend 25 fucking waiver claims and all the good players, me and you would be like smoking this whole league right now.
We'd be in the mix. Like I said, the guy in second place right now is 7-2, and he has 200 points less than both of us right now. So I was just gonna look at the roster there for him but this is gonna be an interesting situation since he said that he's bailing on the league. We've had zero chatter from the commish or anyone else. So this is not the situation you want to see everybody go quiet all of a sudden when a guy says there's quitting the league and no one comes up with any answers or how to handle the situation.
Well, he's still on the Fantrax site and he's still in sleeper league. So I don't know what happened. But on top of that, there's been no action taken on the transaction board. So there's nothing been done yet either. So he hasn't. I'm not sure what his punishment's going to be or what's going to happen.
It's going to be interesting because he came in and he just posted that he dropped every guy he picked up.
But I didn't see that on the.
If you actually look at his lineup, I just clicked his lineup. He has like an empty starting roster. So whoever he plays against is going to get a win because he's got none of his. He didn't set his lineup at all, and he's got all these guys just on the bench because he dropped everyone he picked up.
Let's see what happened. Okay, transactions. I'm trying to.
So that also makes it a problem because now you go, okay, he dropped everyone he picked up. Whoever takes over this team is now going to have a mess on their hands trying to figure out and fix this team when he dropped everyone.
Oh yeah, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everybody, I see it now. What he did. There's a whole page and a half of fucking.
Yeah, I just picked it up. I just pulled it up. It's like all drops, and I just looked at his lineup, and his lineup is empty. So, like, the commissions, you're going to have to go set his lineup. And like I said, the thing is, he had good players, so it's not like his team wasn't going to compete, even if he dropped some of those guys. But yeah, this is where as a commish, you want to get on this situation and get on the horn like immediately and start talking through some of these scenarios before you let it get to the point where this guy is, quitting the league in frustration because everybody's trying to call him out, which I agree. I agree with him. I think it was kind of BS that people were like, well, you should have known there was only 10 transactions. I wouldn't have known that. Are you kidding me? Right. And he said he's in like 100 leagues, which I'm in 50. So I can't imagine he has any clue what's going on as far as bylaws in those leagues. I'm at 50 and I can tell you I have to really think about it. And usually I have to ask somebody or go back and look them up because every league is so different.
Right. Yeah, I don't know what to do, but it couldn't happen to a better commissioner. That's all I can say. It's I'm waiting to see him squirm in this mess that he kind of created because he's being so like unkind of adaptive to everybody else's ideas. It was my way or the highway kind of shit. So I am kind of like I said, I'm in a different C2C league, and everybody's just fun and happy, and the message board is great every week, and there's some trades and transactions, and this league's kind of dry. And if there's a lot of drama in here and shit going on too, on top of it being dry, like I wouldn't give a fuck if this one folded because I learned a lot of stuff in this league. Yeah, my team's good, but I can draft a good team somewhere else too. I don't really give a shit, but I'll stick around as long as the team stays together. But man, I don't know. It's definitely a shitty situation. We'll find something out, but I mean, that guy's not going to keep his team if he just dropped 25 fucking players. That's not.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is like the situation. What is your move as the commish? Because obviously this is a problem that this guy just dropped out of the league with what is it, 4 weeks or whatever left in the season, and just dropped all his players. Well, and I wish you'd get on and say what we're going to do about this, because like I have 4 pickups that I could be making right now that I'm not going to be able. I'm like, are those guys available? Because if they're available, I want to know if I can go in and pick them up.
What if I'm that guy? Like, he was that guy to me. Like, yeah, you shut your mouth and do what I tell you. What if I'm that guy that no matter what he does, I just give him shit for fucking like 2 weeks? Like, blah, 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 blah. Like, I kind of give him the a taste of his own fucking medicine, kind of without I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
But
well, and John, my NFL team in this league is terrible. I drafted super young, so my college side is nice, and I got some the only reason I got some studs on the college side, man. Oh, I got Jaquavian Marks. I got Damian Martinez. I got Ted McMillan. This is one of the only leagues I got Ted McMillan in. So I was like, I'm going to give up Ted McMillan. I'm like so mad. And I got Aronde Gadsden. I got Ollie Gordon. I got Trey Harris. I mean, I've got some studs on the college side that are going to be on my NFL team and make my NFL team a whole lot better next year.
By the way, is that Aronde Gadsden's son? Is that Aronde Gadsden? He's played for the Dolphins. Is that his son?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, that is his son. He plays tight end for Syracuse, but I also have Travis Hunter in this league. I mean, I've got some absolute studs in this league. So I'm going to be pretty salty if this thing all falls apart and we spend all the time. And this is, I think, the only league I have Ted McMillan in too. So I went off the board and drafted my college guys early because I wanted to go young. So now that we've said that, I need to get on that message board and be like, hey, what is the solution here? Because I need to figure out if I can pick up guys or drop guys or what. Because at this point, it looks like it's past 6 o'clock. Games have started, so pickup and drops are done for this week. So if we're gonna have to figure it out before next week.
Yeah, I got a lot of good running back. My NFL team is pretty good. But I'm kind of depleted at running back position, and I got a handful of pretty decent running backs on this team. So I'm upcoming running backs too. So I'm okay there. But yeah, I guess we're gonna have to find out what he wants to do, what the story is, because I mean, you can't just not do anything. That's the worst thing you can do is just not do anything here, because that's people are gonna start picking up all these awesome players that this dude just fucking dropped. It's not gonna be fair for everybody else. All right, well, that's I just want to kind of touch on this stuff today, JT. Today, 45 minutes is long enough for just kind of one of these touch shows, but really appreciate you jumping on again for just touch base on this kind of thing. I'm going to keep asking some players in the C2C about the situation. So far, the 3 guys I know who do all this Devi and C2C stuff never heard of this before. They don't know what to do. They're like, shit, this is a shitty situation. So. Yeah,
I used to say, usually I have like a pretty good opinion on what to do because I've been in, you and me both have commissioned leagues forever. So we usually have seen almost everything. This is the only other time, I'll tell you, the only time I've ever seen this happen in a league. It wasn't a Dynasty C2C like this, but it was a keeper baseball league.
Ooh. And
it was a bunch of people that all knew each other, and the wife and husband split up during the season, and the husband got real pissed because most of the people in the league were her friends, and he turned around and dropped his whole team and just quit in the middle of the year and dropped everybody on his team. And that was a weird situation. I was the co-commission that league, and basically we had to tell everybody, because I mean, obviously he dropped the whole team and it was a guaranteed win for everybody the rest of the year. We basically decided that no one could pick anyone up, and that till the next week, and then we would make everybody available at the same time on one day, like the next Monday.
Yeah.
So that people just couldn't go in there and start picking up all these star players. And that's what we ended up having to do, was like, all right, these guys, his team's available. They're just going to take a loss in every game. But again, that, people are getting automatic wins every week because they basically, his team was he just dropped his whole team. So it was a huge mess. So that was a tough problem. And so we're obviously going to have to figure out how this gets resolved. And I'm in a bunch of leagues with this commissioner, so it's going to be interesting to see how this gets resolved and if this messes with any of the other leagues.
The Vikings are acquiring Jaguars left tackle Cam Robinson in exchange for draft pick compensation. The Vikings definitely need to replace the left tackle after losing their stud for the year, but the fucking Jaguars, the last thing they need to do is let Trevor Lawrence suffer more. What the hell? But anyway, whatever. It is what it is. So, Jaguars just do Jaguars shit. I'm not even a Jaguars fan, but I'm trying to be, but it's just making it so hard to be a fucking Jaguars fan. Just trade away Trevor Lawrence if you're going to be a fucking dickhead franchise. You know, that's kind of the whole, I don't know, whatever. But all right, JT, thanks a lot, man. I will talk to you later.
Thank you, sir.